Hey everyone, good evening. What is conscious eating? What's going on when you're eating unconsciously? How do you know if a food is low vibrating or high vibrating? How can we eat more consciously? What's going on in society? We have an obesity problem here in America, yet we also have people that are anorexic and bulimic. So what is that all about? We're going to talk about that and much, much more tonight. And tonight's Reawaken You, I'm going to encourage you, if you haven't adopted a pet, to consider it. No matter where you live, there are shelters, there are SPCA, Humane Society, and I was someone who was allergic to pets as a child. I had that god-awful indoor-outdoor carpet, which was really nasty, and kind of a miracle happened. I'm no longer allergic to animals, and my husband had a cat. And so when I first met him, I thought, we're going to have to either break up with Tony or kick the cat to the curb. And instead, I'm a cat mommy and love it. And Joey teaches me something every single day about being a good mommy, about being a good person. And, if we don't get our snuggie time, I get really irritated if he's kind of annoyed with me and doesn't feel like giving me some loving. So I think, if you are ever feeling lonely and maybe you don't have someone in your life, really consider adopting someone. And we also want to keep our guest pet Muffin in mind. Hopefully I got that right, Paige, who is not doing too well. So I'm just going to encourage you, check it out. Dog, cat, there are lots of great animals there that need your love. All right, we're going to tell you about tonight's guest. Paige Hall Ferraro has been a spiritual mentor, certified life coach, and holistic health practitioner since 1999. Paige is also a certified medium and clairvoyant and has channeled the celestial and highly evolved beings extensively throughout her life. She is also a metaphysical teacher, radio host, angelic light channel, Reiki master teacher, and a crystal healer and messenger. Most of all, Paige is a light worker who carries a torch for our consciousness awakening. Most of her knowing is received from her own soul's remembering of ancient wisdom. Throughout this life, she continues to receive channeled guidance and messages from the celestial beings of light. Each day brings another layer of awareness towards our ascension, and Paige is committing to sharing divine love and light with all. With over 20 years' experience, Paige assists her clients on a journey to wholeness of the mind, body, and spirit by utilizing her extrasensory abilities, holistic healing modalities, and spiritual mentoring. Paige is also the host of the weekly radio show, Raising Vibrations on Soul Signal Radio. Welcome, Paige.
Hi, Julie.
We're thrilled to have you here again. We did an interview with Paige in December of last year. Gosh, can't believe that. It's almost been a whole year. So if you're looking about what was going on vibrationally in December of 2012, check it out. It's a great interview. But tonight, conscious eating. All right, so what is it? When you say conscious eating, what does that mean?
I know, right? You can't believe that it's been,
almost a year.
Yeah, really. Yeah, and we thought that was a powerful, gateway, and on 12/12/12, and here we are, in a whole new. We just had the equinox, and so I love that we're having this show now because it adds another layer to our conscious awakening, and that's what my mission is here, and I'm very, very passionate about conscious eating. Because eating is actually something that we all, for now anyway, while we have these physical bodies, we all need to eat. And it really matters actually what we eat. And you probably have heard the term, you are what you eat. And when people are learning to master their own energy, conscious awareness of what you are choosing to put in your physical vessel to thrive is super important. And conscious eating means that we are aware in every moment of which food we choose to eat in that moment, and which foods that we choose to purchase, and so on, and how it'll affect our energy in our bodies, as well as the energy of others. And this includes animals, and our planet. And, I say on my show all the time, that we are awakening, to who we are and why we are here. I mean, everyone is on one level or another. And being a conscious eater raises our awareness, of a reverence for all of life. it creates a you plus me equals we global community by being a conscious eater. And when you are consciously aware of what you are doing in every moment, which includes eating, okay, because we're all these beautiful beings made up, of light, living in this dense physical body. When you're consciously aware of what you're eating, you truly feel, if you're eating a high vibrational foods and drinks, you just feel more vibrant. You have a clearer connection to your soul, to the divinity of you, a direct connection to source. It just raises your vibration to a much higher level.
Can you maybe give us some concrete examples? So if someone out there is listening, like my worst on and on habit, I like to call Diet Coke, Diet Crack. It is truly evil. I'm convinced they put evil in that. Now that to me would be unconscious food, probably the max. And then maybe something like Zevia, which was made with stevia, not quite conscious, but maybe a step above. But maybe if you could give some concrete examples of, what is a conscious choice, or if someone's at the store.
Yeah, of course. It's also, most people just aren't aware that, they're not aware that what they're eating, is a low density or lower vibrational, diet, their choices. Really, if it's not living, then it's really not, if the foods that you're eating aren't alive, okay, it's really not, your body actually can't utilize it. It does nothing for the cells. It's like feeding the body, this is hard pill to swallow, I know, but it's sort of just saying to it's doing your body a total injustice. You might as well be putting, a bottle of pesticides, or chemicals, right down, in your mouth, and then feeding your cells with all of those chemicals. And so your cells can't react to that type of chemicals because there's no oxygen for it to circulate. And it doesn't, your body needs light. And processed foods and chemical foods, they don't have any light. It's a dead food. And so basically you're consuming something that's already dead. so you are, let's say, you're sort of speeding up that process of death, of more of a quicker death. However, and that's, when every soul makes a choice of what they want to do. But for instance, I think you asked me about an example of high vibration, low vibration food. Was that the question, Julie?
That's okay. That's okay. We can talk about that. I just think it would help people, like if you're talking about live food. So I think I read once that the perimeter of the grocery store is where you want to shop, that's where all the healthy stuff is. So if someone's standing at the grocery store, what are some better choices, if you want to talk high vibrating foods that people could make?
It's pretty, to me, that's sort of a, pretty easy question there, because it's, if it's not living, if it's not organic, for example, always want to go for the organic live foods. So something that hasn't been sprayed, like I said, with chemicals or pesticides or an insecticide. And I always say that, pesticide, or insecticide really just, if you, in terms, it's really, genocide. Okay. So you have to think in those terms, and, we are, some of us live in our heads all the time, right? So, if you're thinking what to eat, you go for the colors, go for high vibrancy colors of foods. And those that, who are tuning in tonight and are familiar with the, the chakra, system, and that the chakras, vibrate to different color frequencies, well, so do foods. I mean, foods are made of life force energy, foods that are alive, so you want, fresh organic, vegetables, so fresh organic, produce. You want freshly picked. The best thing to do would be to pick it right off of the tree, because, or the plant, because, and I'll go into that, in the show, if you want, but, fruits and vegetables that are alive, organic grains that are not genetically modified. And we want, so like brown rice or, quinoa or, fresh seeds or beans that you can soak. Okay. And I'm going to go into a little bit of the difference between, canned and frozen and so forth and really what that means.
Well, let me ask you this. Say that someone, I read a really interesting post on the Huffington column on the Huffington Post the other day online, and it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek article, and this writer had gone to Whole Foods, and it was very funnily written, and how they spent like $300 now. Large part of that was for some moisturizer to make them look young. I've fallen into the trap before. But if someone out there doesn't have a lot of money, can you maybe make some suggestions? Okay, if you start one place, this is where you could start to, move in that direction or budget. Because the other thing at Whole Foods is an example. I've read they have GMO products, or say it's organic and it's not. So this is, at least to me, a well-known company, and if they're not doing right by us, and if you don't have a CSA, you don't have those options. So maybe talk a little bit about that or what people could do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, exactly. Just because something says it's organic doesn't mean that it's not, unfortunately, that it's not, genetically modified. However, most, local farmers, there's farm stands, all across, the country. You can buy produce. You can buy produce, organic produce. And the reason why I'm a little tough here in that regard, Julie, because I do believe that if one were to purchase organic produce, okay, and they weren't to purchase, all of the processed foods, and stopping at fast food and getting Boston Market and all of that stuff. Honestly, that the amount of money that you're going to spend on vegetables and fruits, okay, and nuts and seeds, actually is going to be a lot less than what you would purchase on a weekly basis for processed foods and meats.
You're 110% right about that, because I got a crock pot as a wedding gift, and I've been going crazy baking stuff, and I laughed, and there was a difference when I looked at the bill, but you're the expert, so I wanted to hear it from someone who counts. But, the other thing, and we can talk about more examples, I made chocolate chip cookies last night. Amnon ate some of them with chickpeas, almond butter. They were amazing, and Amnon ate them, and my husband ate them. And so if they eat them, you know what? Anyone will eat them. So there are alternatives.
Yeah, Julie, I'm proud of you. That's awesome. Really. That's great. And, we don't have to, what we need is fresh ingredients. And, so high vibration, fresh ingredients. Now, there's been, some controversy about, well, we don't want to eat potatoes or, corn and that sort of thing. Well, potatoes and like root vegetables, sweet potatoes are very grounding foods. And they really assist, with those food cravings. And, there's nothing wrong with eating, with eating potatoes or, eating, carrots like with maple syrup or something like that. If you have those, sweeter cravings, they actually ground your lower chakras. And I don't know where I was going with this. Oh yeah, Whole Foods. Basically Whole Foods, and Whole Foods means that you're consuming the food in its purest form. So that's why something homemade tastes so much better, because it's made from the original source. I mean, and then of course we can get into the definite different tastes of an organic pear, for example, as opposed to like a conventional, pear that's been, sprayed with pesticides or has been genetically modified. There's a huge difference in the taste of it. And so that's what I would, recommend that people experiment with. Experiment on a week of groceries, of fresh organic produce, whole, grains, the actual grain, where you actually have to, put it in a rice cooker or a sprouted grain, like a sprouted, a sprouted, my favorite are the Ezekiel, sprouted grain tortillas. You're just going to find also that you actually fill up quicker because of the high fiber content in these foods and the high water content in produce and in fresh produce and vegetables. So you don't really have, it helps to eliminate those food cravings of always wanting more and more and more. And when we take more than what we need, then we are, contributing, to a very low consciousness state of being and collective consciousness.
Now, I want to remind everyone, if you have a question for Paige, you can chat it. I'm happy to ask. I see you all in the chat room. Don't be shy. Or call 919-518-9773, or you can Skype in at Computers 2K Voice. All right, Paige, I'm going to ask you a question, and I might get in trouble, but you're going to answer, so maybe not. Let's talk about being vegetarian and vegan and how that relates to consciousness. Because I was vegetarian for something like 12 years, and then I had a lot of health stuff going on, and I was exhausted all the time. And so someone said, it's because you haven't eaten meat for whatever. And so I started to eat meat again. I started with seafood, and then ate meat. And what's interesting, and then I was vegan for a little bit, but I love cheese. And when I was trying to be vegan, it was almost impossible. And I was living in Burlington, Vermont at the time, but you had to be it became a drag because I was like, I can't go out and eat. And I think you have more options. The first time I traveled cross country, I'd go to these places and, vegetarian meant like frozen vegetables or something. There weren't many options. But, what are your thoughts on that about,
you're probably I'm gonna be a little bit tough here because, I really feel that, and I not only feel this, just from connecting with my own source, on a global scale of how much, on how much it raises the vibration of our planet, and actually to be a conscious eater, means you also care about the environment and, you care about the treatment of animals. And I just want to tell you that when we eat animals, okay, we are eating the vibration of pain, okay? Because as a conscious, being a conscious eater and having that conscious awareness means that we, again, have, the reverence for all of life. And, you were just saying on the beginning of the show, to adopt a pet, to adopt an animal. And, there honestly is no different than, some countries eating frog legs or even cats or dogs, right? Or, eating dolphin, okay, than there is, here in our country, for example, eating a tremendous amount of livestock. Beef or chicken, okay, or and fish, because you have to understand, pigs, and lamb, they are a soul in a living body. They have emotions. They have the capability to feel. They have the capability to love. Their families, their communities. And so when, and I don't really need to go deep into that, the horrific treatment of animals, okay, in those conditions, the animals that you're probably eating. But let's just say that.
What about some like Native Americans who had respect for the animal and said, we get that you're sacrificing for us, and you're shaking your head no. So, okay.
Yes, no, I understand that, but that's because there wasn't anything else available. Okay, that's because there was no other means of, their supply. Okay, their food supply had already been depleted, and so what I mean about that is, here we are at a pivotal time. Okay, of raising our consciousness, to create, which, you've done enough shows on conscious awareness and on consciousness, and energy, and I know you have. And we are actually coming into a time where, we're not going to be eating animals anymore. And the thing is that, when we stop eating animals, then animals will stop eating animals too, because we change the consciousness. There's no separation. You're eating the, yeah, sure. If you want to, my suggestion for that would be, to go ahead and to raise your own, your own food. Then, just like I say, to grow your own food, then raise, your own chickens and, your own cows and etc. And then you go ahead and you try to, actually to murder that animal. And if you don't have a consciousness in that, then you actually are holding a lot of pain in what I call the pain body. And, so basically it just adds to that collective consciousness of pain, and it just becomes this endless cycle like we talked about in December, about karma. So, that's something to think about.
Yeah, no, I respect that. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who are eating less meat, and,
Julie, that's actually the first thing that when people come to me for to be on a detoxification program or something, that's actually usually the first thing that they say to me is that, they just don't feel like eating, meat, anymore. They don't have the desire for the same foods that they used to eat all the time, and that's because you actually are raising up in vibration. I could get really deep into this and say, actually we don't even need to eat at all. We can, graze on, on literally the less we eat, actually, the higher that we vibrate if we are, adequately, hydrated and, receive enough sunlight. There, of course, there's a lot out there that would disagree with me, but let me just tell you, the less that I eat, the better that I feel.
Well, I saw a thing on sun gazing where there are people who gaze at the sun, and they've studied them. Like they had some NASA person study them, and these people believe it start out with 10 seconds and work up to 3 minutes, a 7-9 month process, but they don't need to eat.
Yeah. And I've done that before.
Can you talk a little bit about that for people who don't know what that is? You can probably explain it better than I can.
Yeah, I actually talked a little bit about this on my show on Monday. Because I used to do that as a girl. I would literally stare at the sun, and everybody used to call me, oh, you're the sun worshiper, you're the mermaid, and I was. I lived, by the ocean. I was, in the ocean or, at the ocean almost on a daily basis whenever I could. I would, don't go stare out in the sun in the middle of the day, okay, and burn your eyeballs, all right? But, sun gazing, okay, it's a communication. It's actually, you're connecting again to, to your ancient wisdom, and you're connecting again to what is called the law of one. And sun gazing is actually making that connection with our great central sun, and you do it right for a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes, at sunrise and then again at sunset, and you actually are feeding the cells. You're feeding your cells of your body, and you actually are opening up your connection to your higher self, your clairvoyance, to all of your ancient wisdom. Now again, I don't recommend that everybody, you might want to just give it a try at first, okay? And you just want to do it, sunrise and sunset. Don't do it in the middle of the day, because I'm sure there'll be people out there that will say, you're not supposed to stare at the sun, and yes, you're not supposed to stare directly at the sun in the middle of the day. However, I've also been out in the sun, right at smack in the middle of the day. The more sunlight that it's like, think of like a plant, okay? And, chlorophyll, and, the plant, receives its chlorophyll and receives its life force from the sun. Well, so do we. We receive our life force from the sun, and from water, and from, high nutrient soil. And again, that doesn't really have much to do with conscious eating, but I'm still, I've done it, I've survived on water and sunlight, and I'm actually getting, closer and closer to that.
But I would think that'd be possible the higher you're vibrating. Am I correct? Or
yeah.
So that if you took those steps, then you'd be able to do it.
Yeah, and you do that through conscious eating. You do the, partially through conscious eating, and conscious eating actually just, again, it is about, it's not just about food. Being a conscious eater is that you are, being aware in every moment, of the choices that you are making, and the words that you're telling yourself. Because again, conscious eating goes, we can talk about food cravings too.
That's my next question. So let's talk about it. What's going on when we crave foods?
Well, yeah. And then we can even do a little exercise on that, Julie.
Let's do an exercise. And if you need a guinea pig, I'm here.
Food cravings are always, and let's, a definition of, of a food craving. Okay. Food cravings are, not, food cravings are, food cravings are more than just, it's like an obsession, or it's more like an addiction. It's like our food craving is our go-to food, our go-to food when we are bored, our go-to food when we're stressed, our go-to food when, an emotion is triggered. And it's, and there are different types of cravings, there's salty foods or breads or pasta, there's dairy, there's, fatty foods, spicy foods, there's even, cravings for liquids. And they actually all mean something different on an emotional level, on the emotional body. And so, but a food craving is when it's sort of the overconsumption. Okay. Because some people are like, oh, I'm craving this. And if you have like a bite of raw chocolate or something like that, or, again, food cravings also have to do with the energy centers in our body, which, most, I don't know, maybe some people out there know about the chakras, right? The energy centers in our body, are that, recycle and cycle, our life force. And, food is life force, food is energy, food is light source, and it increases or decreases our life force energy. There's just no other way around it. So when we have cravings, we are usually because one of our chakras is actually unbalanced, and it can mean many things. And so if you're craving a certain food, it can be directly related to an energy center in your body that's out of balance.
I crave melted cheese a lot. What's going on with that?
Okay. Well, cheese is an antidepressant.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. And when people are going through a grieving process, and that can be a grieving process of their old life, too. Some people they've had to leave behind, or, even a passing in the family, or a friend or whatever. And it can also be, just if you're very sensitive, to just, global events as well, which we all are, right? It's just a matter of awareness. And, so cheese is dairy especially is, and especially if it's cooked cheese and not a raw cheese, then you are, needing to speak up about something. And it can be related, to the throat area, to the throat chakra, and also acts as an antidepressant.
Oh, very interesting. That makes sense. I think my throat chakra for years would have definitely been only open at the pinhole level.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So I would think that's probably, and I would say I was definitely depressed in my life as well, earlier life, which makes sense because we had another guest on and we tapped out some stuff, and I don't have the cravings as often, but just went through a big life change. So. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's very good. Now, I want to remind you, if you have a question for Paige, chat it. I'm happy to ask her, or call in at 919-518-9773 or Skype Computers 2K Voice. Now, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Did you have a thought you wanted to finish?
We have, there's so much that we can, talk about, about this topic. I mean, it's usually, and if we go beyond the food cravings and we go into, eating disorders and whatnot, really, cravings have to do with areas in our life that we are, wanting to shove down or not wanting to deal with on a conscious level or a subconscious level. We're either, on, some level, it's, we're saying we just don't want to deal with this right now. We can't deal with this right now. And that's, when we become a conscious eater, I'll just let, our viewers know. I had an eating disorder for many years. And usually eating disorders have to do with not feeling safe and not feeling safe in society, not feeling accepted, and an abundance of pressure. It has to do with just deep rooted pain, usually in the lower chakras. And, I had an eating disorder from, the time I was, I think, 13 or 14, into my 20s.
Wow.
Yeah, I was anorexic, for many years. After that, I was a binge eater, for a long time. And, so becoming a conscious eater when you eliminate those trigger foods. And so the first thing is to identify that craving, identify, what foods are you craving, and see someone that actually, like myself, that knows where those cravings come from and which energy sense in the body that it's connected to, and then, and it doesn't mean that all cravings, lead, to an eating disorder or vice versa. Even today as we are, as our bodies are shifting, we go through cravings, new cravings we haven't had in a long time. For a long time I was, people would laugh at me, when are you eating seaweed,
We got a question about cravings. Can I ask that for you? It's on chat.
Yeah, sure.
Nicole says she loves salty food. She loves her some chips. Me too. So what's going on with that? Because I think, cheese is probably a lot, maybe not necessarily melted, that people crave, but I'm sure a lot of people crave salt and chips. And so what's going on there?
Well, salty foods are, it's a stress release. And it's, there's usually some repressed anger and anxiety. And so anything that especially if it's like chips, I always say, why are you crunching away the anger? Crunch, crunch, crunch. Crunching away that anxiety. But salty foods definitely, have to do, it's an anti-anxiety, just like the, dairy foods are, soothing and antidepressant. Salty foods are, more of an anti-anxiety emotion.
Oh.
Or trying to shove down that trying to shove down that anxiety, not dealing with the anxiety. And in some cases, yes, definitely, anger as well.
Oh, that's fascinating. I like thinking I probably have craved everything that, I definitely have craved chips, and one of my favorite things to eat are chips with melted cheese and salsa. So I think I'm in real trouble here. Well,
and it's, the thing is, remember that it's okay, it's perfectly, and everything's always is perfectly okay. We're all whole, perfect, and complete. That. It's, it's more or less what, is the abundance of the craving. How often are you craving it, and how much are you? How much how much are you consuming of it? It's not something that you crave every now and then. A craving is something that becomes, sort of a it becomes an unconscious, choice. It's an unconscious choice.
Now, I want to ask you, because I had a thought pop in my head when you were talking. So we were talking about, would you say that people who are obese or anorexic or, have an eating disorder, would you say that's kind of, it's not the right word choice, but maybe you can help me. Is that kind of the ultimate of being unconscious, the real extreme, or am I stretching here?
Well,
and there's no judgment in that. I'm just trying to understand.
Exactly, because we're all, this, and we're all doing our releasing work. But yes, it's, because what happens is, if we have a deep-seated emotion, okay, or a deep-seated fear, now that's not to say I want to, bring about obesity for a moment here. I mean, again, we're eating, processed foods, and not all of us, but some of us are eating processed foods, and we are consuming foods that are, just really contaminated and genetically modified. And so again, the cells in our bodies cannot process those foods. And so we do a reversing in our body, such a disservice to the cells in our bodies, and our bodies just can't handle it. And then also time happens is if we're eating, those foods, what happens is, remember, food craving, okay, is something that is obsessive. Okay, is something that is unconscious, and it's sort of the opposite, So whereas, something like anorexia or bulimia, I know I might get some backlash on this, but
that's all right. As long as you're coming from your truth, it's all good here. And that and I encourage people. We can have a respectful discussion. So you've got to speak from your heart. So you do that and not worry about it.
Well, it's just that, it goes back to, we tend to, I don't ever discount when anyone's gone through trauma, just like I don't discount that I've gone through trauma and that's why I became anorexic, right? Except if there comes a time, if we want to raise our vibration and we want to take, part in this conscious awakening that's happening, that we have to release that pain. We have to go within, and we need to get to the core of what's going on with us. And what happens is that when we start all these articles about, the chemicals in our food, and yes, we need to be aware of that, but that's not the reason why people become, obese. We don't become responsible for our actions. This can go with children too. I mean, parents are responsible for what they feed their children. So, we have to all go within to heal those deeper layers of what's really going on, and that it doesn't happen outside of us. It's, we are creating it. So we're creating, we're creating what we do to ourselves, we're doing to each other. And so we all have a responsibility to ourselves, thus to each other. I mean, there's just no other way. We're all connected. No other way.
No, absolutely. Now you've touched on like eating processed foods physically, that the cells are rejecting that, not interested. What's going on with us spiritually and mentally when we're eating unprocessed foods and foods that, aren't live? What's going on in those areas?
Well, it's the same. Emotionally, we're repressing, we're repressing our emotions. We actually, we're just really choosing to not be aware. And, so, when we are, just like we just talked about the food cravings, Julie, we have all these choices out there. And so that would really be like an unconscious choice, an emotional unconscious choice would be to go ahead and grab, that bag of Lay's potato chips that's loaded with chemicals, and genetically modified, as opposed to, going and getting some, getting a bag of organic potatoes, right? And making your own, potato slices, and that tastes, 1,000 times better. I don't really like to get into the cooked foods as well, because, cooking actually lowers the vibration of the food. It's the same, when you think of yourself, right? Would you want to be stuck in an oven at 450 degrees for an hour? It's, you wouldn't have much life force left in you after that. And it's the same thing, so we make a conscious choice. We go ahead and we buy that can of pineapple, right? Well, it's the same thing as, shoving, ourselves in a can and sitting on the shelf for, 2 years. Same thing with buying, frozen berries. Yes, it's convenient. but it loses the berries lose its life force energy by being stuck in a freezing bag, as opposed to eating the fresh berries, because it still has life force in it, which is going to feed the cells of your body. I hope that answers the question, but it's really just a conscious choice. And since we're all connected, on a spiritual, our spirit knows what's best for us. Okay. And when we don't pay attention to, what our spirit, our soul, needs, we make unconscious choices. And so, think about that next time when you go to buy, like, cans of this, or even meat that's, wrapped in, in cellophane. You don't think of that as an animal. You just think of that as, I'm going to go buy some, chicken, and you disassociate. Well, it's the same thing. It all comes down to emotions. It's about not being, conscious.
What do you think of microwaves?
Oh.
I wanted to ask you. I thought, because again, like, the whole point of this show is to educate people, and they might not know. And
yeah, well, microwaves, forget it. there'll be nothing. It's like, it's like putting, it's like put yourself inside of a microwave. You're not gonna, I can't even have a microwave, near my head, or, you really shouldn't even be in the room, when a microwave is on, period. Your children definitely shouldn't be in the room. Your animals shouldn't be in the room. It's radiation. And so the same thing, with your food, you're going to go ahead and nuke your food, and then you're going to eat it. And then again, so you're already, you're just consuming something that's already dead and fried, so there's just no life force energy in a microwave food, because food isn't meant to be cooked, in that form.
Could you lead us in an exercise that would help us to practice to be more conscious in eating? I can do, just a, I want to tell, let's just kind of, go down the list a little bit here, so that some of the people that might watch this show again, because they're too nervous and asking a conscious eating question, let's just go down that salty foods, and then, yes, we can go through a purification exercise. But salty foods, have to do with stress, how much stress that we are, experiencing, some, repressed anger, or we're going through, some high anxiety times, which we are, right? And so when we crave those foods, that's what that usually comes down to emotionally. And, like sweets, if we're craving, sugar and sweets, that really means that we're just really craving attention. We're craving, comfort, from loved ones. We want reassurance and pleasure. Spicy foods, this was a big one, and I actually see this a lot with the, with clients. Spicy, can't get it, they can't get enough of spicy foods. And that is, spicy foods act as like an adrenaline rush, and a huge painkiller right there. It dulls the pain, spicy foods. And then we have, pastas and breads, and that was, one of my biggies. And again, that's another stress release. It's another stress release food. It's also needing comfort. And then so high fat foods, like dairy and that sort of thing, it comes from, you're just feeling that emptiness. But, that high fat food can mean, even avocados. Are you craving avocados? Remember, an overabundance of one thing, isn't healthy. It's not, a healthy choice. That can actually, be a craving. So even if you're craving something like, carrots all the time, carrots, you need to, pay attention. Well, carrots are orange and my sacral chakra is orange. So what's going on in my sacral chakra? That's just for an example. And then liquids, if you're constantly, need, liquids,
they're really that you're experiencing these up-down energy cycles, and to be aware of that. And sometimes loneliness and shame comes along with craving an abundance of liquids. And this can mean, juices mostly, lots and lots of juices. Mm-hmm. And it usually has to do with some sort of a denial, that any food craving means that we're just not, in touch with the emotion. We're not in touch with with the issue. And we're just gonna, well, I'll do that, but I'm not going to give up my chocolate, uh-huh. Or I'll do that, but I'm not going to give up my cheese. It's a denial, that, if you choose to eat, for your body and for your own life force energy, that, there's still a part of you that's still, denying it because you're thinking you'll lose your identity, of who you were if you can't have that food.
Well, let me ask you something. Probably over the 4 or 5 months, I did juice fast. I did this to cleanse, but I have to tell you, I didn't detox like I have in the past. And I mean, I had 4 days of just juice and didn't use the bathroom. Now, my tongue was nasty, and I detoxed through the tongue, but, the whole reason I did it was like, okay, cleanse, and in the past when I've done it, I felt like, okay, you got cleansed, but what's going on when something like that happens? Do you have any thoughts?
Well, what do you mean you didn't detox?
I did not go to the bathroom for 4 days. Of just juice, and juice hydrates you, and it was health, and this happened twice. And then I was like, you know what? My mouth, my husband didn't want to kiss me. My breath was horrible, and I needed to brush my teeth 25. And I know that you can detox, through the tongue, which is good, but I kind of preferred the other way, where I felt like I got flushed out and detoxed.
I understand that, but that actually just doesn't mean that it actually means that you probably needed to do it even a little bit longer, and you need to drink, you need to actually, on top of all those juices, those fresh juices, Julie, you need to drink half of your body weight in water.
Okay.
Next time you might want to add some, 100% cranberry juice in there, very, very, very diluted, 8 glasses of that a day, in addition to into the juice fast. That really just means that you weren't actually getting enough fiber. So you didn't have, enough to eliminate, which I recommend, coconut, coconut water really helps to eliminate.
Oh, good. I'm drinking coconut water, so that's good to know. But I just thought, I've detoxed in the past and felt really good afterwards, but these 2 times it was just like, come on, what's going on? I don't feel like I'm detoxed.
In the detox that you were doing, Julie, were you doing, was it a whole foods detox with herbs and?
No herbs, but just pure juice and juice combinations. Mm-hmm. Like beets and spinach. I mean, different, it was a variety.
Yeah. Yeah. And was it the same one?
Nope. I did 2 different things, and I was super annoyed. Because I felt like I was like, ugh, I'm not detoxing. It felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So
next time add some yoga in there with that.
Okay.
Because that will also loosen up that lower area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. And I want you to talk before we run out of time. We've got some time left. So if you have any questions for Paige, now or never, get them in. 919-518-9773 or Skype computer 2K voice. You've talked about GMOs, but for someone listening, can you explain what that is? Really, what do we need to do about that, and how do we avoid them?
Yeah, sign every stinking petition that comes down the pike, and call your state senate, and tell them that we want our food, we want GMOs labeled. We want to know. We have a right to know what we are eating, and whether our food has been genetically modified, whether our fruits and vegetables have genetically modified. That GMOs are actually in probably 70 to 80% of our foods anyway. So we've been eating, genetically modified foods now for years, and processed foods. Okay. So if you don't grow it yourself, folks, which I'll just put this plug in there now, go on out and get yourself, some, heirloom seeds, some organic heirloom seeds that are non-GMO, and make sure that where you purchase it, that they've taken the Safe Seed Pledge. Okay. It's similar to the Non-GMO Project. So nongmoproject.org. And, right there they have, the latest the progress of genetically modified foods and them being labeled. And they have lists and lists and lists of who is taking the Safe Seed Pledge, who is non-GMO Project verified. I won't eat anything processed if it's not from the non-GMO list.
So so this website, that means, like, for instance, if you go into Whole Foods to buy something, you have your little list there, and you've gone to the website, okay, brand X has done this, so I know if I'm buying them, we're good to go.
Yeah, make sure, because why not? If you're still going to eat processed foods after this show, then at least make sure that you're getting a product that is on the non-GMO list. But, genetically modified foods, basically, are genetically modified organisms, through a splicing of the genes. It's, basically just, it's an experimental, technology, but it creates very unstable combinations of plant, animal, and bacterial and viral genes that don't occur in traditional or natural cross breeding. And these, genetically modified organisms, genetically modified foods can withstand, application of, high herbicides, so that, insects won't ruin crops and that sort of thing. And there's no tolerance to them. Anyway, we know that, how many countries now are, banning, GMOs in their fields in their country, and also, other countries now have, and even now states. We've got, I think, Connecticut and New York, and still working on California, that are, requiring, foods in their state to be genetically modified, labeled.
Well, we have a great farmers market here in Raleigh. It's the state farmers market. But so would you think small farmers have GMOs? Okay.
Ask them. Right up, front. Say, are your food, are your seeds, have you taken a Safe Seed Pledge? Are you planting genetically modified seeds? And again, that goes back to, your right to know. And I would definitely recommend it as a conscious eater. If you're going to purchase produce, don't go to Whole Foods. Go to your local farmer's market. Go to your local, fruit or veggie stand. Absolutely.
All right, fantastic. Now, because you've been on the show before, there are 2 questions I like to ask all the guests. So if someone's in a struggling place right now, maybe it's eating healthier is where they're struggling, and they're overweight, or they've got an eating disorder, or they're going through a tough time, what words of wisdom would you have for them?
Just remember that, we live moment to moment. Don't look to the future. Don't look to the past. Stay in the moment, because because everything is about now. Our whole lives are about now. Now is all we have. And, to really learn how to go within, I would recommend meditating. Work with your angels, learn how to meditate, be in the company of people that are of high integrity, and live authentic lives, that lift you up, and aren't, making excuses for their lives, so that you continue to make excuses, in your life. You have a choice in every moment, and all of our relationships, are our lessons. You can choose to be around people who are positive and coming from a place of integrity.
Okay, and the next thing, you can relate it to conscious eating or not. What one thing can people do right after the show, or before they go to bed, or when they wake up in the morning to reawaken their brilliance?
This has been coming up a lot lately, and respect yourself. Choose self-respect. First thing in the morning. Don't compromise. Don't compromise your integrity. Right there, that's a brilliant choice to make. If you were to leave your body, tomorrow, you would want to look back on your life and say, I lived my life, with high vibration thoughts and love and integrity.
That's great. And you can start singing Respect Yourself from Madonna. We'll go ahead and let you go ahead and dance that. Now, Paige, where can people find out more information? What's upcoming for you? All that good stuff.
Let's see. I am going to be finally getting, I've been trying to find a virtual assistant now forever. I'm going to be, having an online conscious eating class, which goes into a whole lot more than what we discussed on this show. I'm going to be teaching another How to Raise Your Vibration workshop, in February, I believe in St. Louis, and one in Denver. And I also am, I'm finally, because they're in demand, finally getting the hack down to create my meditations so people can download them on MP3s. And then, of course, I have my radio show, Raising Vibrations, which airs every Monday night on 8 o'clock Eastern. And right now I'm really just working on booking sessions because I'm so booked. Another exciting thing I'm doing right now is I'm creating elixirs from my beautiful crystals to actually help with people that want to become more of a conscious eater and just a more conscious being in general to help raise their vibration. And I've been using them and they're amazing. But you can find me on my website, which is paigehallferraro.com. And I'm on Facebook under Full Circle Wellness and Healing. And I'm on Twitter like every 2 weeks or once a month, but I'm on there.
All right, perfect. So we've got that at paigehallferraro.com, Facebook, Full Circle Wellness and Healing, and not hanging out on Twitter as much, but that's all good. We can just only do what social media we can. Well, thank you, Paige. Yes. We appreciate having you on. Check out our radio show. Again, that's Raising Vibrations, 8 o'clock every Monday, and the tables will be turned, and she's going to interview me in November. So if you want to see me in the hot seat, you'll have to check it out. All right, everyone. We thank you for listening, and our next Reawaken You class is going to be on conscious parenting. So we got a body, mind, spirit perspective. So if you're looking for a way to consciously raise your kids, check it out. You can find out more information at reawakenyourbrilliance.com. All right, everyone. Go out this week and reawaken your brilliance, and we'll see you here next Wednesday. Bye now.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Sundays, 9 a.m. till noon. Carrie's Psych Cafe with Carrie Silkowski, Sundays, 8 till 9 p.m. Health In with Debbie Bruck, Mondays, 11 a.m. till noon. Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Mondays, 1 till 2 p.m. Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, the second and fourth Wednesday of each month from 7:30 till 8:30 p.m. Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, Wednesdays, 9 till 10 p.m. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by ThatVidBlasterGuy.com, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.